Welcome everyone. Great to be here, and we say thank you to the gallery and hope that people are tuning in online. So firstly, we will start with the acknowledgement of country, diversity commitment, service acknowledgement and prayer. So if you could all please stand.
The City of Victor Harbor acknowledges the Rumanjeri and Nurrunjeri people, the traditional custodians of the land and the surrounding waters where we live and work. We acknowledge their deep connection to country and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. This respect is extended to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people across Australia.
The City of Victor Harbor is committed to diversity, equity and inclusion. We respect people of all ages, abilities, genders, sexualities, religions, beliefs, cultures and backgrounds.
We recognise the brave individuals who have served and continue to serve our nation. We remember those who have lost their lives and paid the ultimate sacrifice to our country.
Almighty God, we ask you to bless this council and allow it to be an agent of change to the people of this city and beyond. Direct and prosper its deliberations to the honouring of your name and the welfare of the people whom it serves. Amen.
This evening we have two apologies. The first is Mayor Moira Jenkins and the second is Councillor Marilyn Henderson, who are currently on leave. We don't have any items adjourned or left lying on the table this evening. Next we have minutes of the previous meeting. So we'd like to confirm that those minutes that were on the 28th of July 2025 are a true and accurate record of the meeting. So do I have a mover for that motion?
Councillor Schofield.
Thank you. A seconder?
Councillor Mann.
Thanks a lot. Any questions about the minutes? No. All those in favour? Anyone against? That's carried. Thank you. Next we have deputations, and we have had a deputation refusal, and I've asked the CEO to read the reasoning for the deputation or refusal, as it hasn't been something that I've been a part of. So this is regarding Keith Climpson's request. So I'll hand it over to the CEO.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So in accordance with Regulation 11.5 of the Local Government Meeting Procedures, Regulation 2013 and Council's Code of Practice for Meeting Procedures, which states if the presiding member refuses to allow a deputation to appear at a meeting, the presiding member must report the decision to the next council meeting. Mayor Jenkins made this refusal, so Deputy Mayor reports that a deputation request from Mr Keith Climpson regarding removal of seaweed from Victor Harbor beaches was refused by the presiding member. The request was declined as the matter was previously been addressed with Mr Climpson, and Council's position remains unchanged in regards to the removal of seaweed and is primarily the responsibility of the Coastal Protection Board and requires state government approval.
Next, we have questions from the gallery, which we do not have any of those currently. Eight. 8.1 is a petition that's been received and it's relating to Glenvale Road, Lower Inman Valley. And we're currently receiving and noting the petition that's come in from residents along that road. So do we have a mover to receive and note that petition?
Councillor Mann.
Thank you. And a seconder? Thank you. Anyone else like to speak to that?
Councillor Stuart Burns, just a question. I noticed in the commentary there's a provision, and I just wanted to know if that was sufficient to allow the cost to be widening of the road when it does come up for consideration. If not, could we or administration ascertain what the estimated cost would be? And that can be when we discuss it.
I'll take that one to Jodie, please.
Thank you. Through the Deputy Mayor. The allowance in the 10-year capital works program is over 2 years, so design can be in the first year, at which stage we would expect to have detailed costings, which would help inform the cost in the following year.
Any other comments for this evening?
Councillor Mann. I was just wondering whether including bringing this item forward as part of those consultations requires a motion from the chamber, or whether that'll just be included to be looked at when we do the review later in October.
In October, we'll be reviewing the asset management plan, and so that will give us the opportunity to bring it forward if we wish.
Thank you.
Okay, if debate is now closed, we'll vote on that. So all those in favour and against? That's unanimous vote. Thank you. Next is outstanding resolutions report for August 2025. If I have a mover for that, please.
Councillor Mann.
Thank you. And a seconder?
Councillor Kemp.
Thank you. Any queries about the outstanding resolutions?
Councillor Burns, just one question. In regard to outstanding items 5 and 6, I was just inquiring whether the minister has identified when the charter would be released. He may not.
No, we haven't received anything today.
Councillor Kemp.
Go ahead.
Just a request to the CEO and administration, if they could, the printed out copies, if they could make it in landscape format, because the portrait, you can't read, the words are too small. The text is too small. Thank you.
Not a problem. Anything else to add? If everyone's had a chance to say something, we'll close the debate and we will vote on that. So all those in favour? And anyone against? So that's unanimous. Next is, I think it's 9.2, is that correct? And is the December Ordinary Council meeting, and the recommendation is stating that we would like to hold the December meeting on the 15th of December at the Civic Centre at 5:30 p.m. And the reasoning obviously is that it's getting quite close to Christmas if we were to retain the original time slot that we would have had. So do we have a mover for that?
Councillor Burns.
Thank you. Seconder?
Councillor Schofield.
Thank you. Any debate on that? Nope. So all those in favour? Anyone against? That's unanimous. Thank you. Now on to 9.3, which is the reviewed budget framework policy, which is a bit of a mouthful, but I got it out. So we're looking to adopt that policy. So do I have a mover for that?
Councillor Burns.
Thank you. And a seconder?
Councillor Kemp.
Thank you. Anyone like to speak to the motion?
No, Councillor Burns, no. I think that it was well documented and all the changes were identified and all made sense. So happy with it.
Terrific. We'll now put this to the vote. All those in favour? Anyone against? So that's unanimous. Thank you for that. We don't have any items for community and development today. We're in our corporate and customer services. It is 11.1, which is the office closures. And there's two motions here and they're quite wordy. So I think we'll put them up on block if people are happy with that, and take it that you've read the complete recommendations. So do I have a mover for those?
Councillor Burns.
Thank you. A seconder?
Councillor Schofield.
Thank you. Any debate? That's great. Okay, so we'll put that to the vote, and all those in favour? Anyone against? That's fantastic. That's unanimous. So now we're into the council member appointment on the Boating and Marine Advisory Group. I think that's the title of that group. So I think there's two motions at the start, which I'm happy to do on block, acknowledging the resignation of Councillor Quinton, and that Councillor Carlos Quaremba will move into the chairperson role. So do I have a mover and a seconder for those first two motions?
Councillor Burns.
Councillor Mann.
Any debate on those two motions?
Councillor Mann. Just to thank Councillor Quinton for his time on the committee.
No more comments, if that's the, okay. Thanks, Carlos.
Just a question for the CEO. Do I have to declare a conflict of interest when voting for this? There's no monetary benefit. Can I actually vote or?
No, it's, yeah, there's no conflict. It's, you're already on the committee. There's no monetary benefit.
Thank you.
If that's okay, we'll close the debate now and we'll vote on those. So all those in favour? And those against? None against, so that's great. That's unanimous. Now we're on to the licence renewal of the Victor Harbour Beach. Oh, sorry. We didn't appoint, back to appointing an additional member now that we have a resignation there. So anyone who would like to nominate for that committee?
Councillor Burns.
Thank you. Do we have any other nominations? If we don't have any nominations, we can move on to, I think it's recommendation 4, to basically endorse Councillor Stuart Burns as the new committee member. So do we have a mover for that, please?
Councillor Mann.
Thank you. Seconder?
Councillor Mackenzie.
Thank you. All those in favour? Those against? That's great. It's unanimous. Now back to the one that we were talking about a minute ago, which is the Victor Harbour Beachside market. And we have two recommendations that we can.
Councillor Quinton.
Yes, Councillor Quinton.
Could I move an alternative motion, which is that we defer this item to the next council meeting to enable the administration to hold discussions with the manager of the Beachside Market about relocating to Ocean Street?
Yep. Do we have a seconder for that motion at all?
Councillor Schofield.
Okay. Would anyone like to contribute to the debate on this motion? Yep. Councillor Quinton, would you like to speak on?
I'll just briefly discuss it. The idea for this is to move the markets from the current location on the Soldiers Memorial Gardens to Ocean Street, which has a few benefits. To start with, it will remove the issue of the vehicles potentially damaging the established trees in the location. It will remove a significant degree of weather dependency on the market. It will contribute strongly to the reactivation of Ocean Street, and it has been done previously and has proved successful in the past, and it has the support of the administration.
Councillor Schofield, would you like to speak to it?
Look, I agree with that. It really does add to the atmosphere in the main street when their market's been held there previously. And also, I think some of the weather conditions that the market experiences with the wind tolerance wouldn't be as great in the main street.
Anyone else like to speak to the motion?
Councillor Quaremba, please.
Yep.
Won't this require consultation also with the Ocean Street traders, or am I missing something?
Through the Deputy Mayor, if this motion is successful, that's what we would need to do, not only discuss it with the market operator, but also with Business Victor Harbour and the main street operators, and bring that information back to the chamber for you to consider it.
So we're talking road closures, extra cost to the council then, because how would we run the, I guess that's something you'll investigate.
Yeah,
just
it has been done before, but yes, we would need to bring all that information back to the chamber for your consideration.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'll support this motion. It's a little bit out of the blue, but anyway.
Councillor Kemp, just a question. Is this an adjournment motion or a normal motion?
No, he's put this motion prior to a motion being put up. So from what I would understand, it's an alternate motion, which is slightly different to an adjournment.
Thank you.
Councillor Burns, just a question, if I could. I understand previously there have been markets in Ocean Street, but I don't know if they were all year round or just winter months or summer months. Maybe the CEO could clarify just to help understand what they used to do previously. I'm supportive of it. I just need to understand what they were doing before.
Yeah, I'd probably need to include the response in the report if this motion is supported. The beachside markets have actually been held in Ocean Street before, whether they were for a significant period of time, but in my time they have been, but whether they were just one-off or special occasions, I'd need to follow up with the report.
Sorry, further question. Was it the entire length of Ocean Street or just from probably the Grosvenor going down to...
I believe it was just from Grosvenor down, but again, I can follow that up in the report.
Yeah, just to clarify, I'm just seeking to defer it so that we can have all these discussions and figure it out and see if it's going to work or not.
I think it has been a success in the past, but how regular those events were occurring, I'm not sure. So anyway, anyone else that would like to contribute to the debate, please?
Councillor Mackenzie here. Just a part of that report as well would be interesting to if this is successful, it'd be interesting to hear a positive or negative impact on the artisan markets just around the corner if they were to run at the same time, whether that would have a flow-on effect to foot traffic or whether that would hinder one or the other.
Yep, that's a good point. Anyone else like to contribute?
Councillor Quaremba, just another question.
As long as it's a question.
Yeah, it's a question. Until we go ahead with all this, obviously the market will continue as status quo?
Through the Deputy Mayor, that's correct. The current licence has expired, but we have a holding over period and they continue on as normal under the current arrangements.
Great, thank you.
If no one else wants to contribute, if Councillor Quinton wants to close the debate.
Okay.
All right, we'll put it to the vote. So all those in favour, those against? So that's carried. Thank you. We don't have any subsidiary reports. Oops. Yep, what have I missed? All right. I missed one there, which is regarding the environmental management plan, and we're looking to take that out to as adopted as a draft document and to take it out to consultation. So do we have a mover for that, please?
Councillor Schofield.
Thank you. A seconder?
Councillor Burns.
Thank you. Anyone like to speak to that motion? Anyone like to close the debate at all? No. Okay, put that to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. All right. Next is the speed limit review for Colebatch Road and Agnes Gillespie Road. And there's 3 motions there that we could potentially put on block if you wish to. So I'm suggesting that we put them on block. So do I have a mover for that?
Councillor Schofield.
And a seconder?
Councillor Quinton.
Thank you. Would either of you like to speak to the debate?
Councillor Schofield, no, thank you.
No, thank you.
Anyone else that would like to speak to the motion? If not, I'm assuming that our mover and seconder have nothing else to say. So we'll close the debate, and all those in favour, please raise your hand. Those against? So thank you. And we've carried that unanimously. Now we're going to committee meeting minutes, and the first one is the Recreation Centre Management Committee minutes, and we're looking to receive and note those particular minutes. So do we have a mover for that, please?
Councillor Burns.
Thank you. Seconder?
Councillor Quinton.
Thank you. Anyone wants, well, there should, if there's any questions about the minutes, that's all that we need to ask. If not, we can close the debate and vote. No? All those in favour? Those against? That's unanimous. Thank you. Now we're on to the Audit and Risk Committee minutes and their summary report. We've got 2 motions that are part of this. The first one is to receive and note the minutes of the meeting. So we'll do that one first. So if we have a mover for that, please.
Councillor Mann.
A seconder?
Councillor Schofield.
Thank you. And unless there's a question, we can put it to the vote, but okay. All those in favour? Those against? So that's carried. Now we're on to recommendation 2 as part of this particular agenda item, and I'll ask Victoria to read it out to make sure we get a clearly defined statement on the actual motion, because it's quite tricky for me to get it to exact wording. So
Yep,
I'll
no,
hand
thank
back.
you. That the recommendation is that council transition cash-backed equity reserves to non-cash-back equity reserves where permissible by legislation.
We have a mover for the motion.
Councillor Mann.
Seconder?
Councillor Mackenzie.
Thank you. Do either of you like to speak to this debate?
No, thank you.
No, thanks.
Anyone else?
Councillor Quaremba, please.
Go ahead.
If it's possible, can we have just a brief understanding or explanation of what this actually means? Cashback equity reserves to non-cashback equity reserves, just potentially for the elected members that don't understand.
Yep, I will divert that to Kelly, but
Sure.
I assume you were at that meeting. Is that correct, Carlos?
Yes. Yeah, I just want to make sure everybody else understands it, that's all.
It's okay. Kelly?
Thank you. Through the Deputy Mayor. So we have a number of accounts with the Local Government Finance Authority that we treat as essentially cash-backed reserves. So money that is collected is put into those accounts and then drawn down when specific amounts have been expended by council. It's not a requirement for all of them to be cash-backed, as in to have an actual corresponding amount of money in the bank. We can maintain those reserves essentially as book entries and reconcile and do that without actually having the cash tied up, so that we can use the cash to better effect by reducing our interest costs. So the review was undertaken at the request of the Audit and Risk Committee, with essentially 2 of those funds being recommended to be closed down and cash backed only being kept for where there's a legislative requirement for us to keep those monies in the account.
Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Burns, just a question, if I may. Does that include grant money that's allocated as well?
So through the Deputy Mayor, so it does in some cases. So we have a unspent grants bank account. So depending on the grant funding deed, some of them, particularly federal grants, will say that a separate bank account needs to be maintained. And then the interest costs that are received from those funds, if they're not expended at any point in time, is actually reinvested into the project itself as well. So where that's a requirement of a grant deed or a legislative requirement, we will maintain a separate account.
Anyone else like to speak to the motion? Anyone like to close the debate? If not, we will put that to the vote, and all those in favour? Those against? Fantastic, that's unanimous vote. The next committee is the Disability Access and Inclusion Advisory Committee, and we are receiving and noting the meeting that was held on the 7th of August 2025. Do we have a mover for that?
Councillor Burns.
Thank you. Second?
Councillor Kemp.
Anyone got any questions about those? No, that's great.
Just Councillor Quaremba, sorry. Just a question. We get a report now from the Audit and Risk Committee Chair. Is it a legislative requirement, or would it be a change of the legislation if we were to seek a basic, summary of what these meetings will, happen in these meetings? Is that possible, or is it just the minutes that we will receive?
I'll direct it to the CEO. Thank you.
Through the Deputy Mayor, the Audit and Risk Committee is a legislative requirement because that was implemented as part of the legislation. All of the other committees are Section 41s of this council. So if the council wanted to amend its terms of reference and require the chair to provide a summary, the council could do so. The minutes are reflective as per the code of practice or the regs in terms of just a recording of the decisions of the committees. But there's nothing stopping this council to say that it would seek the chair to provide a summary of those meetings similar to that to Audit and Risk. So it's not a legislative change, it's up to the council.
Okay, so it's just a change of the
Terms of reference.
Terms of reference. Right, okay, wonderful. Thank you.
All right, any more comments? If not, we'll close the debate, which wasn't a debate anyway, because it was the committee. So all those in favour, please. And anyone against? That's unanimous. So there's no subsidiary reports and there are no matters of urgency. There are no questions on notice. If we have any questions without notice,
Councillor Quaremba, please.
go ahead.
It's a question for the CEO. The chair of the Audit and Risk Committee's report, is that not normally included in the minutes of the meeting? I think it was an attachment this time. Is it normally included in the minutes?
Since it's been required, yes, it's part of the minutes. It's attached.
Okay, wonderful. And does the chair of the Audit and Risk Committee send a draft of his report for preview by council prior to publishing?
Not to, as into the council elected members?
No, as into the administration.
Not particularly. So
Not particularly?
no, not when, so normally a record is taken and then it's provided to the chair and then he confirms that he's happy with that, as in the notes are taken.
Yep.
And then he confirms that he's happy. He will make his changes and then we have to make the changes according to his requirements and then it's published.
So his report is based on the minutes, based on what he was at the meeting, or does he? What I'm trying to get at is
summary of the meeting.
It's a summary of a meeting, but what I'm saying is the summary of the meeting go through administrative hands prior to. So does he send a draft to the administration for review and before it gets published? Is what I'm after.
No, it goes the other way around. It requires the administration to prepare a summary, which he then reviews, he amends, and then he finalises, and then we publish it.
Okay, so the general contents of the review of the brief is done by administration, and then he just adds or takes things out accordingly.
Correct, because he's unable to chair the meeting and record a summary while he's chairing the meeting.
Okay, wonderful. Just a few more questions, just regarding grants. Grants that don't require individual bank accounts as per legislation, how are they treated from an accounting identification point of view? Are they separate or do they just go into general revenue? Is there a line item there? This might be a question for Kelly.
Well, it depends on what they're actually received for. Most of our grants are applied for a specific project or program. So some of your projects in the annual business plan budget are subject to grant funding. So if it's a capital item, for example, I use a road, if it's referred to Jagged Road, then it will be associated with that account. It would enter into that account, but we also need to acquit it and fill all the requirements of that particular grant funding. So it would come in as general revenue, but sit within the particular line that it was associated with.
Right.
So it doesn't just sit in a general bank account. We have an annual business plan and budget. So any money that comes in by way of a grant must be associated with a particular program or project or service and acquitted accordingly.
Okay. And do all those accounts, are they used to offset any interest payments that may be required?
I can refer to Kelly, but we do have general revenue that comes in, and yes.
Through the Deputy Mayor. So in terms of the budget itself, there are individual lines, as Victoria was saying, around particularly capital projects. So the money that we get from grants goes into that so we can account for it. We actually have to prepare a reconciliation of all our grant monies received for the external auditors as part of the end of financial year. And there's a particular note within the financial statements that breaks those down as well. In terms of the funds themselves, the ones that we don't have to keep in a separate bank account because of the grant deed are used essentially to fund our general works, capital works first, and then we use them to essentially make sure that we keep our interest costs as low as possible.
Right, okay. And just one last question, just regarding the sports precinct. Have we already opened up a bank account for that or taken out a loan for that yet? Other than the forecast, obviously, into the long-term financial plan, but have we actually opened up and drawn down any of that money that's required?
Through the Deputy Mayor, no, we haven't. So depending on the outcome and moving forward with the precinct, we would be looking, if council were to move that way, that we would be looking to use our current cash advance debenture until we got to a point where we could, we knew exactly how much we needed to fix and what the interest rates were doing at that time. So we would potentially wait until we could lock in an amount and get a good interest rate.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions without notice?
Councillor Kemp. 3 questions. First one's around Synergy Soft, and the second one's around restructuring of staff positions due to the software systems and any business practices have changed. And as the reason why I'm asking these questions, because they will have impact on council budget going forward. So the first question is Synergy Soft and other legacy software still being used by staff, and if so, why?
Yes, it is, because we're still implementing the new Tech One system and we still need to have information and resources available in Synergy Soft.
Second question, has the structure of the council staff been determined, and when will it be made available to council when the change has been made?
Well, an organisational restructure has not been undertaken, so no, and we are currently reviewing all positions as we are implementing the system. So once I make any significant organisational restructure changes, I would advise council, but just general changes internally, I don't need to, but I am required, part of the optimisation phase, to report back to council on any efficiency savings, and that includes positions and resources.
And the last question, if any proportion of all business practices have been revised at this stage? Any business practices, as in departments being changed or changed around because of the new software system?
Not necessarily, no.
No, thank you.
Any other questions without notice? If not, we'll move on to motions on notice. And the first motion on notice is from Councillor Quaremba, and he can either take the motion that he's placed and put it up, or there is an alternate that the administration have put up. So I'll refer to Councillor Quaremba.
Councillor Burns, I'd like to second the first motion so we hear what Councillor Quaremba has. I'd like to understand.
We need it to be moved by Councillor Quaremba first, please.
I move it.
Are you moving your own or the?
I'm moving my own, thank you.
Okay. Yep. Are you doing that on block?
Sure.
All righty then. Do we have a seconder for that?
Councillor Burns.
Okay. Councillor Quaremba, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yeah, I'm not going to read out all the parts of the motion. It's there for everybody to read, and hopefully they have. My main thing is here, and I want to make this clear, is that this is not about stopping immigration altogether. That's not the point of this. The point is, at the moment, there is 1,500 people a day coming into the country, and while they're not all ending up in Victor Harbor, we are still experiencing the on-flow effect of what is now called interstate immigration, where these people are coming into the country, are moving into the major capital cities, and then people from the major capital cities are moving out to other smaller cities such as Adelaide, and then obviously down into Victor. And we've seen a huge amount of growth in the area, and it's starting to having quite adverse effects on all of the things that are required in town, whether you're trying to get to a doctor or you're trying to, childcare, and then obviously the biggest issue is housing. That is just. It's just out of control at the moment. So what I'm seeking for this to happen is for us to actually, as a community, send a message to all the bodies that are listed in my motion to actually say that we need to not stop immigration, but we certainly do need to put a pause at the very least and allow for all of our services, infrastructure, housing to catch up. We can say that we want to fix the housing issue by doing first homeowner grants for people under the age of 30 and all these other small things. But this is the big ticket item that is actually really making the biggest effect. So I'm hoping that the chamber will see in its way to actually address the true issue that is creating so many of the problems that we're experiencing currently.
Anyone else like to speak to the motion?
Councillor Burns, I have more a clarification question of Councillor Quaremba about his motion, if I could ask that question.
Yes.
Thank you. In your motion, obviously, housing is being impacted. That also includes the affordability for younger people to get houses. So I just wanted to check, because I know we're looking at options for younger people within Victor.
Yeah.
And obviously, I remember when the Department of Transport came down and gave a briefing about the Greater Adelaide proposal, that majority of the people they're proposing to come here are from overseas, not interstate. So
okay,
if this goes up,
I'll stop you there, Councillor Burns. It's turning into a statement rather than a question. So
sure.
Yeah, I understand what Councillor Burns is alluding to. Yeah, the affordability of housing is essentially a supply and demand issue, and we're not doing anything about. We're doing very little about the supply. In fact, I heard today
all right, Carlos. It was a question, and you've already spoken. So
well, I haven't answered the question.
Well, it's turning into a statement too.
Well, I have to give the question some context in order to answer the question correctly.
All right, condense your answer.
Okay, so yes, supply and demand. If we don't do anything about the supply, the demand will continue and only get worse, and the median house price, which is now at $900,000 in Adelaide, will only increase. And a 5% deposit for young homeowners is not going to cut the mustard when you're borrowing $850,000 from the bank.
Anyone else like to speak to the debate, please?
Councillor Mann.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. No, I completely appreciate Councillor Quaremba's passion around housing availability and affordability, and it's something that, as the Chamber would be aware of, something I've been advocating for as well. And there's been motions I've put up that the Chamber's supported, and others that respectfully have not been supported. And I do appreciate that Councillor Quaremba's looking at ways and means where we can try and help our younger people and just anyone get into housing. I've spoken with Councillor Quaremba about my views around migration and housing availability and the balance between them, and he knows where I stand. And effectively, it's, I agree that there needs to be this careful and practical discussion around our current housing availability and what our migration levels are, and whether it's something like Councillor Quaremba's put up around a temporary pause or a reprioritisation of skill sets. However, I'm of the very strong view that such a discussion needs to be had incredibly carefully and sensitively. Like many things, it's not what's said or done, it's how it's said and it's how it's done. And I think such a discussion needs to be done delicately and carefully, not to paint a person or particular group of people as being responsible for housing availability. And again, this is something I've expressed to Councillor Quaremba. And I believe, to his absolute credit, he has done a very good job at walking that fine line and balancing that in his motion and commentary, and I definitely commend him for that. I guess the thing for me is, in the back of my mind, I have what happened back in August 2023, and that was before the August Council agenda was even published, that we had Senator Pauline Hanson on the floor of Federal Parliament commending and congratulating Councillor Quaremba of the City of Victor Harbor on his motion regarding the voice referendum, a motion that was not to be put up for another 20 days. And just when Pauline Hanson knows well before me the motions that are coming to the Victor Harbor Council, it makes you think. So again, whilst I really do commend Councillor Quaremba for the motion he's put up, I don't trust that Victor Harbor's support for this motion would be handled with that careful and sensitivity that this topic would require. Because at the end of the day, my personal views is I don't believe it's in our community's best interest for Victor Harbor to be used as an example or a prop in what could be a discussion that isn't handled sensitively or with the care that it needs to be had. So in this instance, I'm not able to support this motion.
Thank you. Does anyone else like to speak to the debate?
Councillor Burns just had a clarification question. My understanding was the motion was that the LGA has the discussions with the government, not the council, and all that's being advocated is that it's passed to them to have the appropriate discussions the appropriate way with the government. Is that not correct?
Yeah, the motion is to formally request that the City of Victor Harbor formally requests the Australian Local Government Association, so straight to the federal government representative of the LGA, not LGA state.
Anyone else like to contribute to the discussion?
Councillor Kemp. Again, I guess it's just one of those interesting points, you know, on what we're trying to do for our community in the way of advocacy. And we've certainly put a lot of things up to various state and federal levels, what may impact on the City of Victor Harbor. So I think this in its context is really about looking at and just seeing what the and letting the Australian LGA know exactly how Victor Harbor feels about, you know, the whole issue around immigration, where skill sets and housing comes into it. So I guess it's just another form of just letting the federal government know, or the LGA, that how Victor Harbor sits.
Just a comment, we don't know how Victor Harbor sits. We know how people in the chamber sit. So I'll dispute that little component of the discussion.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor, but again, you know, it's about conversations in the community. So again.
Anyone else like to speak to the motion? If not, I'll ask whether Carlos would like to close the debate.
Thank you, Councillor Schiller. Just so people know, I'm actually an immigrant. So, you know, I have no issue with immigration, and I really don't have any issue to a degree with who comes here at all. What I'm simply pointing out that we can have a softy discussion, but every day goes by, 1,500 more arrivals come in here. And just as it's not fair for every Australian that's in this country, it's also not fair for them, as we don't have any housing. What I'm simply asking the chamber is to take a position and say that we need to speak up. But if you choose not to do that and you want to just tinker around the edges and, you know, do your little thing and hopefully something's going to happen. Look, at the end of the day, I've got a house, I've got a roof over my head. I'm advocating for those that don't, including some in this, potentially some in this chamber, and the members in the community that have come and expressed their disappointment at what's going on. And we were told at the last federal election that numbers would be reduced, and in fact, they've increased. So at what point do we, as an elected body, speak up? Now, I know sometimes it's a bit messy and some people may get offended, but at the end of the day, I think the fact that, you know, even for example, this morning I was walking from one job to another, 50 metres, I saw 6 people sleeping in shop fronts. Who's actually speaking for them? And that may not have been here in Victor Harbor, but it's increasing. I'm seeing tents in different areas popping up. We need to start taking a position. And if people get offended, then I'm sorry, but we need to start taking and making a decision.
Okay, we'll now put it to the vote. So all those in favour and those against?
I call a division, please.
That has been lost and a division has been called. So all those in favour, please stand.
Those in favour, Councillor Burns, Councillor Quaremba and Councillor Kemp.
Those against?
Councillor Mann, Councillor Mackenzie, Councillor Quinton and Councillor Schofield.
Thank you. That has been lost. The next motion is also from Councillor Quaremba, and I'll allow Councillor Quaremba to decide whether he would like to put his motion as he has written, or there is an alternate motion that has been put up by administration, but leaving it up to Councillor Quaremba to state what he'd like to do.
No, I'd like to proceed my motion as I put it forward, please.
Would you like to do that on block?
Sure.
All right.
Okay,
And
so
we need to make sure we've got a seconder for it
Oh, yeah.
first.
Councillor Burns.
Okay. Councillor Quaremba, if you'd like to speak to it, that would be great.
thank you. Once again, I find in this chamber that when we don't like what someone has to say, we just seem to silence them. And the last thing I think we need to be doing right now in the community is creating division. You may not like what people have to say, and I've experienced this myself, but it's incumbent on us to give them the opportunity to come to this chamber and express what they need to say, as long as it's not in a derogatory term. Just because we don't like what they have to say doesn't mean we don't have to listen. Now, I have disagreed with Keith on a few occasions about a few things, and we've had those discussions. But what he is talking about is actually what is quite huge at the moment, which is the algae bloom. And I have looked into this, and there is evidence that algae bloom can be kept within the seaweed. So all we're asking you for is to give Keith the time to come in, have his piece, just listen to what he has to say. You don't have to agree with him and then to be on his jolly way. But the further we try to suppress and stop people from talking, or we're creating more enemies in the community, and that is not what this chamber should be doing.
Councillor Burns, would you like to speak to it?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm supportive of this because I understand that whilst I understand the argument against it, I understand that Mr. Climpson has new information from the South Australian Department of Water and Environment about the seaweed and beach cast rack, that's dead seagrass, that may be contributing to the algae bloom issues affecting Victor Harbour. And I'd like to actually understand that information, and so if there is a correlation or some further information that we don't have, I think it's important that we get that. The other point I just wanted to make is that it's my understanding that under the Fisheries Management Regulations of 2017, 2 licences were issued in South Australia, one to each council within South Australia, saying that they have a licence to remove all accumulated dead beach seagrass and marine algae on beaches, referred to as RAC, and the other is for commercial operators. So currently all councils in South Australia have been issued a licence and don't require permission from EPA or anyone else, as I understand it.
Anyone else who would like to speak to the debate?
Yes, Councillor Schofield. Look, I understand where this is all coming from, but there is a state policy for the management of beach cast, marine, algae and fishery, and that's the Fishery Management Act 2007. The RACs, decaying seagrass and marine algae, are considered essential components of coastal ecosystems and severe important role in the ecology of the local environment. And I think any concerns related to this matter should be taken up with the appropriate government authority. I also, listening to Councillor Burns, looking up at this Act today, yes, if you approach some councils, there is a small amount of seaweed that can be taken off the beaches for personal use. It cannot be removed for any other reason. And that's what I read with the Fisheries Management Act 2007 today.
Anybody else that would like to speak to the motion?
Councillor Mann.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just to add that there has been a lot of discussion around this, and the Mayor has, on grounds that she's refused other deputations in the past, also refused this deputation, and predominantly that's when the matters that have being brought up are within that responsibility of a state or federal government. I think it's not just a matter of silencing people or trying to create division. It's trying to be responsible in our use of the chamber and what information is brought into the public realm through this means. We had the deputations around the COVID-19 vaccination, which again were refused for similar reasons, being that they weren't within the remit of local government. There was a number of councils that didn't take that same approach, and I even read a news article around health professionals calling out those councils for promoting vaccine scepticism and putting the community at risk. And I think something as important as the algal bloom and for those who attended the meeting of the state government when they came down the other night would know that the state government were promoting that there needs to be that one source of truth or that one place where people can go for that information. And I think us directing people towards the appropriate channels, whether that's to receive information or to flow information up, I think is appropriate. And I don't see any reason why we should set a new precedent in this matter or go against the Mayor's decision. So in this instance, I'm not willing to support this.
Anyone else who'd like to speak to the motion? Give Councillor Quaremba the opportunity to close the debate.
Thank you. Those famous words, one source of truth. I think George Orwell spoke about it in his book, 1984. I get really concerned when I hear people say that, like there's no science to prove left or right or whatever the opposing factor is. When we start going down that path, it's a very dangerous path to go down. Once again, it's just about hearing Keith come in, speak, and then instead of, if what he's saying is incorrect, then we put out the incorrect stuff. But we don't just silence him, because at the end of the day, it's not like he's going to stay quiet now anyway. There's social media, there's heaps of things that you can't stop. So by all means, vote against it. Just another nail. It's okay.
All right, we will now put this to the vote. So all those in favour of the motion and those against?
Call a division.
That motion has been lost. So we will now call a division for those that were in favour of the motion. And I'll ask the CEO to announce that.
Those in favour, Councillor Burns, Councillor Quaremba and Councillor Kemp.
And those against?
Those against, Councillor Mann, Councillor Mackenzie, Councillor Quinton and Councillor Schofield.
The motion has been lost. Now we move on to 18.3, which is a motion from Councillor Carlos Quaremba, and it's relating to looking at a two-tiered system for rating, and I'll get Victoria to announce the actual title, and then I'll get Carlos to speak to the motion.
Item 18.3 is motion on notice. Investigate a two-tiered service funding model based on user pay principles, presented by Councillor Quaremba.
If you'd like to speak to it.
Thank you.
Oops, no, we need a seconder first.
Councillor Burns.
Okay. Councillor Quaremba, if you'd like to speak to the motion.
Thank you. So what I'm trying to do here is investigate a way of being fairer with our rates. I've had quite a few community members come to me and say that they're not quite happy with what our rates are being spent on. And so I started looking about how we can do this. I've looked at there's countries overseas that are doing this, New Zealand, Canada. There are models where this happens. Now, I just want to make it clear, this will not remove the funding required for the essential services that we have, all those legislative requirements. But what this will do potentially is lower the rates of those that can't afford to pay for all the bells and whistles sometimes that we bring to this chamber. And yes, we do vote on them. And I've heard the CEO say, well, you know, the community voted for you guys. You've got 4 years to make a decision. But I think this system allows more input from the community as opposed to them just having to lump whatever comes across this chamber and then waiting another 4 years potentially to get other people elected. The other thing that I think we need to put into perspective here is the interest in local government is decreasing across the board. And I would hate to see a situation where it becomes such that the community as a whole decides that local government isn't required anymore. It's so far out of its remit that there is no pulling it back. I think this is a step forward. I'm asking for some consultation, some discussion with the community. Essentially, I know that it is going to be a requirement of a legislative requirement change, but I think opening those communication channels with people and seeing what we can do before it comes our way anyway is only being proactive.
Councillor Burns, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I was just interested in the rationale. I've read all the documentation. I just wanted to hear the proposer's view on this. My understanding is that it's not impacting the legislative requirements of the rates tax or the core services. It's just on some of the allocation of the rate money once it's been raised. And I was just interested in, and I think, look, it's probably a good discussion within the chamber to have.
Anyone else who would like to speak to the motion? Councillor Schofield.
Yes, Councillor Schofield here. There's not a single council with the definitely highest rate in South Australia, as information changes annually and depends on the properties, valuation and services offered. We may not use every service, but they help to make our neighbourhood a better place to live. Just like income tax goes towards the range of federal services, as well as the ones we don't personally use. Council looks after roads, footpaths, parks, playgrounds, community spaces and much more. Council rates support the full mix of local services that benefit the whole community. An action like this can create discrimination from the negativity impact of social cohesion by creating barriers between different groups based on age, gender or other factors. This can make a difference for people to interact and build relationships, leading to the lack of trust and cooperation within a community. And therefore, I cannot support this recommendation.
Anyone else who would like to speak to the motion?
Councillor Mann.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I completely agree with Councillor Quaremba in relation to interest in local government declining across the board, and I think it is a serious issue that the state government needs to seriously look at and make some action in relation to. And I commend Councillor Quaremba for the time he's taken in this motion and the creativity that he's put together in it. And I think that local government does require some creative solutions, and you know, maybe there is something that could be within this. I think though that what is being put up and the proposal doesn't quite justify the $40,000 expense to investigate it for the City of Victor Harbor. You know, the question or the debate between what is a council's core service is a tale as old as time. You know, like with many decisions, we're often picking between lose-lose situations where we're not going to keep the community always completely happy. You know, we receive complaints about rates being too high and that councils should just be focused on roads, rates and rubbish. We also receive complaints about why council has not already built a community garden, recreation centre, youth facilities, or has not already supported our sporting clubs, farmers, main street traders, for example. Often it's the case that both sets of these complaints come from the same people too. Local council is a collection of representatives of our community, trying the best to follow the direction of our community and provide the services and facilities that they want in our community. You know, as the report states, council rates are a land tax. They're not a fee for service. You know, the opt-in as to whether you pay council rates is whether you have purchased property within Victor Harbor. That's the opt-in mechanism for paying the tax. You, if you want to earn an income, you opt into paying income tax. It works the same way. I think what is proposed in Councillor Quaremba around a two-tiered rate system for the mandatory being what everyone pays and then the discretionary services being an opt-in method will result in nothing being able to be completely funded or affordable to our different groups. You know, an opt-in system like the one being proposed, I don't imagine would be able to sustain a new basketball stadium for our basketball users. They wouldn't have the funds in an opt-in system to provide the capital to construct and maintain and then the operating expenses to run that basketball stadium. You know, I don't think you would find one group in our community, whether that be library users, pool users, rec centre users, who through an opt-in funding would have sufficient funds to fund the facility that that group wants. You know, I don't see how something like this would work. And I think, as I said before, I don't think there's the incentive to the City of Victor Harbor based on that to put in a 40 grand operating investment to investigate it.
Okay, 30 seconds.
Thank you. I think if it's looking at this, I think it's very much more for the local government association or state government to consider alternative funding methods. And I think there is reforms that are needed in this space. And I know the City of Victor Harbor and Councillor Quaremba has pushed a lot of different reforms, and I commend him for his advocacy. But in relation to this instance, I can't support this.
Anyone else like to speak to the motion?
Councillor Mackenzie.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I appreciate what we're trying to achieve in this motion. My major concern with this would be many of the holiday homes that make up Victor Harbor would end up opting out of paying for all the services that all us residents get to enjoy all the time throughout the year, because the holiday owners of the holiday homes may only be here across summer or a few months a year, so may not see it as something that they pay for. So then I guess the residents who live in Victor Harbor all year round would have to make up the difference of that in their rates. So yeah, that would be my major concern.
Anyone else who would like to speak to the motion? If not, I'll allow Councillor Quaremba to close the debate.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to say thank you to all the elected members for all valid points and all things that could have been addressed had we actually gone out to consultation. The whole point of this, I think people are missing, is to actually consult with the community and let them identify what they believe to be discretionary spending versus what we decide to push by sometimes minority groups in the community. As I said, it's the cumulative cost of all these things that we do that now are attracting to be a net negative for the community overall. And while some of us may be able to afford these huge increases in rates, I think a lot of people aren't. And if we don't heed their warning, they will get to the point where they will just push back and say, anybody that presents an opportunity to remove local government is something that I'm going to vote for. In fact, I'm actually trying to save local government because at the moment it feels like it's just getting way too big. And I understand that it may not be entirely their fault. I know there's a lot of pushback from state government handing down things to local government, but we do pay taxes already at a state level. We do pay GST. And so I think there is a discussion to be had here, but if the chamber chooses to continue with status quo, I totally get that, but this discussion is not going to go away. And this view about local government is certainly not going to go away.
Thank you. We'll now put this to the vote. So all those in favour of the motion, please raise your hand. And those against?
For division, thanks.
The motion has been lost, so we will call those who voted in favour of the motion. Could you please stand? And I'll ask the CEO to announce them.
Those in favour are Councillor Burns, Councillor Quaremba and Councillor Kemp.
And those against?
Councillor Mann, Councillor Mackenzie, Councillor Quinton and Councillor Schofield.
So that motion has now been lost. Now we move on to motions without notice. Calling anyone who wishes to bring a motion without notice.
Councillor Burns.
If you would like to propose your motion. Yes.
The council resolve the following in relation to the proposed Victor Harbor Sports and Community Recreation Precinct. It's in regard to the full prudential report, and I understand I had a discussion with the CEO prior to this that a lot of this may already be underway. The driving factor for this was to ensure that the report that the chamber receives is full and comprehensive. A lot of the information in here wasn't included in the draft prudential report we received, and I just want to make sure that we receive all this information, which is required under legislation and council's own prudential management policy. And I'm sure that it will, just making sure that all this is provided to the elected members, that we have the workshop and it's presented by the authors accordingly. So that my motion is basically just to ensure the detail of that report, which is required under the current South Australian Local Government Act and also Victor Harbour's Council Prudential Management Policy C202. That was it.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's too much detail for a motion without notice. There's too much in there. So I'm suggesting that you bring it back as a motion on notice. So I will reject it as a motion without notice because of the huge amount of detail that's in the motion. So that one has been declined.
There's no cost implications.
Yes, but the crux of a motion without notice is if it's a simple a decision or a simple request, that's okay. But once we start to delve into multiple facets, that's not the intent of a motion without notice. Any other motions without notice?
Councillor Mann.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. My motion is that administration write to the local government minister to 1, express our disappointment with the lack of meaningful reforms being proposed. 2, remind the minister that local government is an instrument of the state government and that structural issues regarding councils and elections are ultimately the state government's responsibility. And 3, encourage the minister to listen to the extensive recent consultation and propose meaningful reforms that will strengthen local government and encourage more people to run in council elections.
Before we go on with the motion, I will ask CEO the timing of that to be, whether that is required to be heard as a motion prior to our next meeting. If it, the time span is too short, well then we'll consider the motion. But if it is beyond the next council meeting, maybe that could come back as a motion on notice. But I'll ask the CEO first. Yep. All right. It's a current reform that is occurring at the moment. So therefore, I'll allow the motion. So now we need to seek a seconder.
Councillor Quinton.
Thank you. Did you need to speak any more to it, Councillor Mann?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I would, if that's all right.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Just for some context as well. So at the 2022 South Australian local government elections, there were considerable issues, which included a lack of people nominating and people rocking up to vote. So much so that I think there was a number of councils that didn't even get enough nominations. I think the Southern Mallee District Council of Coolbetch and District Council of Tumby Bay had 2 nominees for council, leaving 6 to 8 vacancies. We also had incredibly low voter turnout, with 43.3% of regional voters voluntarily casting their ballots and only 29.6% of voters in metropolitan areas casting their ballots. So in 2023, the state government, in their wisdom, funded a massive statewide review called the Local Government Participation and Election Review. Councils and community members across the state participated in the consultation, including our council, and many submissions were put to the state government on how they could make local government more appealing and to encourage more people to run and to vote in elections. The review is finally concluded, and after all of this time, the local government minister is now putting up proposed reforms. However, The current reforms do virtually nothing to address any of the issues raised throughout the extensive consultation. The Local Government Association of South Australia has stated that the most significant change proposed is that only Australian citizens will be eligible to vote. So for context, in trying to solve an issue where not enough people are rocking up to vote, the state government have now reduced the amount of people who are allowed to vote. What we've been advocating for, and through this consultation, before this consultation, even last month, is for the state government to take local councils and local government seriously and look at addressing some of the problems that have been having. I think what I've seen over 7 years in local government is where it doesn't matter which party it is, state government continue to treat local government poorly, to treat us as the poor cousin, to put all the blame for any issues local councils are having on councils or the councillors on them. Even some of the commentary that's recently come out from the minister around local councils and the reforms, to put the effect of it, some of it was saying around, councils should get their own houses in order before we look at significant reforms. And I think the thing with councils are that we are an instrument of the state government. They can change it, they can take us away, they can fix us overnight, yet they continue to put the blame on local councils for all the problems that are happening across the sector. It is very disappointing after all the consultation to see such poor response from the state government around these reforms. And I think it's only through councils and local government association and our communities advocating for changes to make it more appealing to run, to make more people interested in what's happening in council. Because I think what Councillor Quaremba's alluded to as well is people are becoming disenfranchised with councils, with government. And I think there's ways and means that we can try and get more people to be interested and to nominate in elections.
30 seconds.
Thank you. Because I think ultimately everyone wins if they have more options as to who they can vote for at an election. I think it strengthens our democracy, and I think we need to be standing up and calling for greater reforms, because if our Section 42 committees aren't working, people look to us. But if councils aren't working, no one looks to the state government, and I think it's about time we do.
Thank you. Councillor Quinton seconded the motion, so if he would like to contribute to the debate at all.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I've got nothing further to contribute. Thank you.
Anyone else who would like to speak to the motion?
Councillor Quaremba, please.
And Councillor Burns after that.
Okay, Councillor Quaremba, you can go first.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Don't know what to say here. I listened to what Councillor Mann had to say, and it's just, to me, it's getting upset at the Minister for Local Government. And at the end of the day, the reforms that they've suggested, maybe they're not going to do them, maybe they are. But I think in order, before we start rearranging state government, maybe we should look in our own backyard. I've heard members of the upper house suggest that we should force people to vote in local government. My argument is, if you want people to engage and be interested, give them something to be engaged and interested about. All I hear from the community members in what is the point of local government, what is the point of getting engaged, they don't listen. And this chamber on several occasions has gone against community consultation numbers, has gone against the will of the people, and then we sit here and complain that people aren't engaged. As I said, we can either sort ourselves out, or the state government or a party that may take it to an election will do it for us. So in order to, I'm not going to support this, not because I don't think local government doesn't need to be reformed. I've always been a huge advocate of that. But I think the reform has to come from within our own walls and not expect state government to step in. Yes, we are a child of state government, but currently we are acting like petulant children as far as I'm concerned. So no, I won't be supporting this motion.
Just a clarification, the reforms will not be coming from us as a chamber, so that component is something that needs to be changed.
Just a question for the Deputy Mayor.
Yes.
While the reforms won't come from us, can we change out the way we act with our community and how we engage? Is that something within our purview?
That's not the part of this particular motion. Would anyone else like to speak to the motion?
Councillor Burns.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I agree with Councillor Mann's sentiments. I think the motion is important. And I also agree that a lot of consultation was done with the community and councils. And I think the outcome by the minister left a lot to be desired and could have made some much broader and more extensive reforms. And I think it's important that councils like ours send a message up saying, especially with an election happening next year, that it's not good enough and they need to go back and revisit and do better.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to contribute to this discussion?
Just a clarification, if I may, Deputy Mayor.
As long as it's a question.
Just, does everybody know that the reason that the amendment to the Local Government Act regarding non-citizens voting in was because of what happened in Adelaide City Council? That is a question. I'm asking the elected members if they know that that is the reason why.
But you can't ask a question of every single elected member in a meeting.
Sure.
So anyone else who would like to speak to the debate?
Could I close that one, Deputy Mayor?
Yes, if no one else would like to speak, go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. No, I completely appreciate some of the sentiment and the points put around the chamber. I think my view is I think the state government want councils to be divided. They want us fighting between ourselves because then we're not going to be able to hold them accountable for the sector and the reforms and the part of the job that they're not doing. There's an argument out there that it's beneficial for the state government for councils to be fighting, to be seen as disharmonious, disorganised and causing issues because it takes that political focus away from them. To the point that the reforms should come within our own walls that Councillor Quaremba makes, I draw the Chamber's attention to the previous motion where that was looking at spending $40,000 of Victor Harbour community ratepayer funds in an operating budget to look at investigating reforms that the City of Victor Harbour in no way can deliver or achieve. I think in terms of the council and the role we play, it is to continue to advocate because at the end of the day, that's the only power the state government have given us. So I think where we can, we should be doing it and calling for better conditions because it's the future of the tier of government that is closest to the people. And I think there is work to be done, but it requires that investment. It requires the council to be serious, the state government to be serious about it. And some of those reforms that they're putting up weren't even looked at within the consultation that they've been consulting extensively with as well. So I think it's really putting the pressure on the state government to do some things or to follow through with the extensive consultation and their own reports.
Thank you. Now we will put this to the vote. So all those in favour of the motion, please raise your hand. And those that are against. So that's been carried. Thank you.
I get to call the division, please.
Sure. Those in favour, could you please stand?
Those in favour, Councillor Mann, Councillor Mackenzie, Councillor Burns, Councillor Kemp, Councillor Quinton and Councillor Schofield.
Those against?
Those against, Councillor Quaremba.
That motion has been carried. We're on to just checking that we have no more motions without notice. If that's the case, we now have a confidential motion which is relating to the operation of the cinema. And so firstly, we need to move into confidence. So is someone willing to put the motion to go into confidence?
Councillor Schofield.
Thank
and
you.
Councillor Burns to second it.
All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. So we will now move into confidence.
Deputy Mayor, can we have a short recess, please?